Nice.
That's kind of nice. All right. So welcome to Skelton Crew Review. This is kind of like a supplemental little podcast that we're going to be doing in conjunction with our Star Wars Safe Space podcast that we do every week. So this is just, a limited run companion show because we're talking about Skelton Crew. Obviously, it's the big thing right now, and we're all very, very excited. So I'm Tommy D, and I am joined by the pilot of the infamous Parma Flyer. It's Crash.
Hi, everybody. Good to be back.
Awesome. Good to have you back. Good to have you. You've been out traveling the world?
Yes, I have. Seeing sights and making the Star Tours run, all the good stuff.
There you go. From the beaches of Normandy to the beautiful, beautiful castles and the Disney playground that is Paris Disney, right?
Yeah, 15 times in a row on Star Tours. That's got to be a record.
What? I've never been on it once. Not one time.
Oh, man. You got to do it.
So, all right. So let me ask you this before we dive into Skelton Crew.
Sidetrack right off the bat. Okay.
Of course, that's how we roll. If you've ever watched, our any of our other, Circle of Nerds podcasts, we never stay on track ever. But anyway, so Star Tours in Paris, does it still have the RX droid? Is Rex still?
It's got C-3PO as the pilot. It's just like the ones in Anaheim and Orlando.
Okay.
It's interesting because if you ride it enough times, like my sister and I did, everything's in French. But occasionally you'll get the same, the maps and the cutscenes in English. They're very accommodating. There's that reputation about French people being rude. They're not rude if you're polite. If you respect them, they'll respect you. 100%. And I think that plays, especially at Disney, where they're trying to be French but friendly. Right. It was interesting that we were going on the tour. My sister's birthday. She has a little button that says, "It's my birthday," and all the cast members would start recognizing us because we're just doing around and around and around and around. And by the fifth time, they're like, "Oh, bonjour! Oh, happy birthday, Emily!" Just we were part of the family already. But there's the great thing about Star Tours is with the randomization and all the different maps they can do, the combinations of what you can get each experience is worth at least 2 or 3 times. We did 2 or 3 runs the first night, 7 the next. I mean, we didn't do them all in one day like a crazy person, but it was over 2-3 days. We did about 15 times through, and it was just fun to see all the different.
All right.
Combinations and cutscenes and they're working in some of the newer shows like Andor and Ahsoka, and I'm sure they'll eventually work in Skelton Crew as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's cool. Yeah, we've been to Paris once. We didn't go to Paris Disney, but yeah, Paris was super cool. We didn't have a problem with anybody. We went and we saw some touristy stuff. We kind of went off path to see some non-touristy stuff, and it was cool. We didn't experience any sort of rudeness at all, but like you said, we were respectful. We were respectful of the culture, and we weren't like, we're Americans, do what we do and do what we want. We didn't.
I made it through 2 weeks I speak 2 languages, English and bad tourist French. The amount, the little you can remember from high school is bonjour, and then just sort of play dumb / pathetic and please help me. Your English is going to be better than my French, so let's do this.
I pull out a translator all the time, and I'm like, and they're just like, just stop. We appreciate the attempt, but please just stop.
And that's the key: the attempt, the effort, the consideration.
Exactly, just a little respect. All right, so Skelton Crew.
Yes.
I'm just going to start right off the bat and say I love it. I have nothing negative to say about it. The nostalgia is high with this. It felt like meeting an old friend again. After seeing an old friend after not seeing them for 20 years. It's got the Amblin vibes. It's got the ET vibes, the Goonie vibes. It's all just right there, and it sucked me in. It had me. It just had me from the start.
I had an interesting conversation with my sister, Seb. So we were watching the show together, and she's younger than I am. She's 10 years younger than I am. And I leading up to the show, everybody kept saying, "Oh, this is Star Wars Goonies. This is Space Goonies." And she kind of went, any people my age, unless their parents showed them, like force fed them like 80s Goonies and all those like movies and stuff.
Right.
They didn't really get like understand. Like she knows the pop culture references that have carried on. Us 80s kids like to think that our childhood is eternal, but like kids from the 90s and 2000, unless they were shown a movie like Goonies, they may not understand fully the connections that are being played in this show.
Well, and also like if as a kid, and I think this is where because online already there's people that are just like, this is not Star Wars, this is not my Star Wars, blah blah blah.
Right.
Blah, blah, right. And
getting off Twitter was the greatest thing I ever did. Oh, I love it.
Between Twitter and TikTok, good Lord. Yeah. But I think the big picture that people are missing with this is if you didn't grow up with the original trilogy, and I mean like grow up with it, you're not going to get that nostalgia hit. It's not going to hit you on that level.
Right.
That's not to say you can't enjoy it.
You can enjoy it for different reasons.
Exactly.
The story they're building already seems very interesting. And this might be the Goonies of your childhood. Just like the prequel babies, like my sister, she grew up during the prequel trilogy. That's her Star Wars. That was where her childhood memories were formed.
And one of the beautiful things about Star Wars is that each generation has their Star Wars. You've got the OT generation. You've got the prequel generation. You've got the Clone Wars animated series generation. You've got the sequel generation. And now you've got the Skelton Crew generation. Like this is
the Mandoverse in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, 20 years from now, Star Wars fans will be dead, but Star Wars fans, well, maybe not, hopefully not. But the kids that are seeing it now, they're going to look at all of the stuff that came before, and they're going to say, you know what, that's cool. Skelton Crew was my Star Wars.
Right, and because just like we all grew up wanting to be a Luke or a Han, I loved that sequence at the beginning where the kids are, they show up to the bus stop, and the first thing they do is, break into a lightsaber. Like, who didn't do? There better be cardboard tubes on that planet, because you need a good old cardboard tube lightsaber fight when you're a kid to really. That's what being a Star Wars fan was all about.
And that's what, like, when I say that, watching it for me was like, running into an old friend, an old childhood friend. That's why, because I did that, I grabbed whatever I could, and we had blasters and lightsabers, and we did exactly what Wim and Neil did. We did exactly what they did. And the writers and the producers, they knew that. It was written by Star Wars fans. Like even if like the writing wasn't directly from a Star Wars fan, they got input from people who grew up in that era. You could just tell. I mean, and then all of the Easter eggs that are sprinkled throughout, we're going to touch on some of those.
Right.
Because there's just so many. We can't get through all of them. But so the big thing that I want to talk about, because it goes between these two episodes, both were great. I loved both episodes. I loved the pacing. I loved the discovery. I loved, I loved the reaction to Lightspeed. I thought that was hilarious.
Because I think we as fans have become so jaded to the idea of this. Oh, faster than light travel. Oh, it's just like getting your car and going down the street. First time out, I'd be screaming like, what?
Yeah, and it's funny because someone posted on TikTok, and they used this sound where it was like very tranquil, and then it like went to screaming, and it said, Omega from the Bad Batch, her first time, going to Lightspeed, and she was just it was peaceful and beautiful and calm and serene, and then we've got the Skelton Crew kids, their first time freaking out, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they live on this isolated planet And that's the big topic for this episode of our show. Is
my questions have questions about this at Atlanta. How do we say it?
So it's spelled at-atten, but sometimes it sounds like they're saying ad, like Alpha Delta.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think it's Alpha Tango, so I think it's at-atten.
At-atten, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of questions. Again, the Space Goonies, the pirate thing, everybody loves the dissect trailers for like, oh, what's this show going to be about? What's this going to be? Remember when Ezra Bridger was Space Aladdin? Everybody wants to make that instant connection to something from the past to make it seem like this isn't an original. My questions have questions about this place where the kids come from, the space suburb.
So let me pose a couple of questions to you, because you and I probably have the same questions, and those questions have questions. So the big one.
Yeah.
First of all, the big one. We know that this takes place during it's within season 1 of The Mandalorian, I believe. I believe that's the time frame.
Post Empire sometime.
It's post Empire, but it takes place around the events of The Mandalorian season 1 or 2. Right. So that's we know this. My question to you is, based on certain things that were said and certain things that we can infer, when do you think that this, they're calling it the Great Work, this planet, when do you think this came about?
Ooh.
My thought is it's at least pre-Clone Wars. And the reason I say that is okay. So during the secretary, the undersecretary Farah, she's addressing the class, and she makes this comment about keeping the Republic peaceful and strong. She didn't say the New Republic.
Not the New Republic, not the High Republic, the Republic.
She said the Republic. So, and then when we see the kids hand over the credits, they're like, "Hey, where did you get Old Republic? Mint condition Old Republic credits?" But do they mean Old Republic, or do they mean pre-Empire Republic? But then the Old Republic is still anywhere from like 25,000 BBY to 19 BBY. So I mean, the Old Republic is a big era.
Yeah, the money was, like they say in many things, follow the money. And when the kid, got his, dad, and again, as an '80s kid, a latchkey kid, that scene where his dad is just, like sliding over your lunch money, like it's no big deal. Only use this for lunch. Don't go buy, baseball cards at the corner shop, or this is strictly for your food because I'm going to be at work late. That right away, it was like a little ping in my head. I was like, okay, that's older money. I roughly remember what Republic Dietary, like credits like Qui-Gon Jinn would have had on Tatooine that was no good on, because back then they were, they wanted, the Republic wasn't the thing for them, so they wanted a different kind of currency.
Right.
This is like getting a pristine original print $2 bill, like and I love the fact that the guys in the pirate trading post, when he flashes the money out there, we all remember our first time we had our own money, and you went to the store and you pulled your wallet out when I had all your birthday money from grandma, and you're pulling out like 20s.
Is this enough?
Yeah, like Mr. Big Spender here. Okay, is this enough?
Right. And you're buying like 2 candy bars and a soda.
Right.
So, but then the way that guy, the guy at the food stall, he was like, "What?
Yeah.
No, we need more. But how much could that possibly be worth? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, my dad gave it to me for lunch money," and everyone's like, "What?
Yeah,
lunch money." So that, and then when we see the ship, when the ship takes off, it's buried, and there's trees growing on top of it. How long
has that ship been there? Why was it there?
So I think we'll get to that. We're going to get to that, obviously, but we see the skeleton pirates, what's left of them. So where do you think this this, like, I'm thinking again, at least pre-Clone Wars. It could be much, much older than that.
Snips and I had this debate just tonight coming home. We were driving home, and I said, we both kind of had that moment of like, okay, the easy answer, obviously, it's got to be pre-Empire Republic.
Sure. Yeah.
It could be further back. Like, they know about Eldani. You listen to this and some of the other worlds they were talking about. You're like, okay, so these worlds haven't been plundered by the Empire. This is clearly pre-Empire thinking, and whatever this school has been teaching the generations of kids on this planet is sort of outdated information. Like, how when we grew up, we never got in history class past like the Civil War,
right?
Even though the books may have gotten to World War I or whatever, but we never got that far before the school year ended. And I'm like, I feel like this culture, this society is running on outdated information. So it could be a very, for lack of a better term, a gated community from an earlier time. I would even say, I don't want to say, maybe not where we saw it in the Acolyte, but somewhere between that, like closer to maybe the prequels than the Acolyte. But I have a feeling this is an old society level of learning. Now this is like when on another show, this would be where Kirk and the Enterprise show up, and like these people haven't, the gangster plan, they haven't progressed past the 1930s. These people are still living in the old, the High Republic or the Old Republic.
So it could potentially. So Acolyte took place 100 years before the prequels. Yes.
Yeah. I remember the math right, somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. So you're saying that it may not. So the great work may not predate the Acolyte, but may definitely fall between the Acolyte and the prequels.
Yes.
You think that's a safe
I don't think they've even known about, because I've heard speculation on other YouTube clips and stuff. People talking about, are these separatists? Well, separatists wouldn't be using Republic Dietaries.
No.
So it's not a Clone Wars. The easy answer would have could have been like, it's a society a neutral society that broke, that shielded itself from the Clone Wars. They'd be using separatist money,
right? If
they were separatists. I feel like this is
talking about the Republic. They wouldn't refer to the Republic at all. So So then I was thinking too, like, what if it's kind of like is it like a kind of a Truman Show experiment? Is it kind of like a Vault-Tec experiment? Is it something, I don't want to say sinister necessarily, but like, is somebody watching this happen? Are they all clones? Is it like a Noah's Ark scenario? These people, like, to escape something catastrophic, they found this place and then shielded themselves off from the rest of the galaxy.
Well, you remember in the prequels, they talk about how there hadn't been a war since the formation of the Republic.
Right.
That doesn't mean there weren't conflicts. There could be people that maybe just the Truman Show analogy is very good in that it's a bubbled community to maintain a certain aesthetic, a certain nostalgic way things should be.
They wanted utopia. They want this utopian society to be just so.
Whatever this barrier is about, to have a whole society grow up where, I love the fact that, again, they showed us all this Star Wars suburbia clips in the trailer, and the first episode basically amounted to the aptitude testing. Remember when we were in school and asking a fourth grader, "What do you want to do with the rest of your life?"
Yeah.
I don't know. I totally understand. But everything that these kids, one kid said, "Oh, I want to be a middle management supervisor.
I want to be a data analyst." But it's like that's how they've been raised. That's how they've been indoctrinated.
That's the only existence you know of. You don't even see the stars. How many times in Star Wars do we see kids, Luke, even Rey, look up at the stars and think, well, what's out there for me? Well, if you can't see past your own planet, what's there to aspire to?
And someone online had mentioned that. They were like, that's so stupid. How do they not know what stars are? It's not that they didn't know what stars were. They had never seen stars. Because as you look up into the night sky, all you see is this array of red dots. You see these red lights in the sky, and they're all perfectly aligned to form this array or this grid. And then that's all they've seen. They've seen those swirling clouds, almost like an aurora borealis sort of effect. And then you see all these little red dots in the sky. Do the kids know what those are? The adults clearly do, but do the kids know what those are? And so my question to you also, what do you think those are? Is it a defense system? Is it a hollow array to make the planet look different? It doesn't seem to be a defense network because it didn't keep the ship in.
Right.
But it's doing something. What do you think it's doing?
I think it's a defense in almost in a masking sort of way. Either from the inside out or the outside in. Like, the galaxy's a big place. We've heard Anakin talking about, I want to be the first one to see them all, and we've seen the star map in that Luke was hiding. That they were trying to find Luke. There's a lot of dots on that map. Not
Oh yeah.
Very few people have covered every square inch of the galaxy to see every planet on that map. I'm sure there are places that maybe mask their viability, their appearance to maybe an outside scan.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction of the pirates when the kids told them where they were from.
It's a mythological place.
It's like four kids showing up at your seedy bar and go, "Oh yeah, hi, I'm from Atlantis. Here, have a gold. Here's a gold bar. Can I buy lunch?" Right.
Your head would explode.
Yeah, and it's almost like a reverse. I heard a great analogy. It's like a reversal of the Goonies story where the kids are looking for the treasure. The outside world want to find out where the kids are from.
Yeah, the kids came from the treasure.
The kids came from the treasure, and like that, the pirates that we saw at the beginning, which again we'll get into, Easter eggs and stuff. There was a lot of interesting visual references there, but I loved the Dark Knight moment of the lone Republic credit on the floor is sort of an FU, to anyone who's trying to steal what you thought was on this ship. Here, have $1 and shut up.
Right, shut up. So that, I feel like that was probably left behind on purpose.
Yeah,
like that lone credit. So with At-Aten, they were very careful to not show once the kids get past the barrier. We didn't see them leaving the planet. Normally, we see that in Star Wars. We always see a shot of the ships leaving the planet.
Right.
We don't see it this time. And then when they asked SM-33 to send us back, any droid would be able to access those coordinates to go back to where they just came from.
Yeah.
But they're not in his memory banks. He was searching and searching and searching. They've been deleted.
You almost wonder if his ship got there by accident, or like
the pirates found it. The pirates finally found it, and they killed each other trying to argue about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe those pirates somehow integrated to the culture there.
Yeah, whoever the dead skeletons were of somebody. There's a lot of questions. Obviously, it's the first 2 episodes. There's a lot of questions about where that ship came from, who was it intentionally landed, crashed, whatever you want to call it, on the planet, or and then maybe it just sort of got buried over time, like like the pirate ship on Goonies, where it's like, okay, it was in this cove, and then it sort of slowly got buried, and until the kids let it out. Like that was I'm assuming, in the Goonies, it's a free reign open port when they put the pirate ship in there. Much like I think the starship, was it there intentionally, or was it just accidentally there and then left to be covered up?
Right. And it's a caper. It's a mystery, and I love it. I think we're going to learn so much. It's like you want to say, oh, I know what's going to happen. I already know, and this and that. Like I think we've sussed out who Jod is. I think we
first shot
Yeah.
You know, with that, as soon as he had that Cobra Commander man, as soon as he spoke, my sister and I looked at each other. We're like, "That's Jude Law."
Yeah.
And it's going to be funny watching how he maintains his persona. This lot, the things he said to the kids, can have a double mean. Can have a double meaning where it's like, there's what I said, and there's what I meant. And we're going to find out how he's going to juggle that with them.
Because it's clear he's just going to use them to get to the treasure planet.
Right.
Of eternal treasure. So, again, I'm really curious to find out about what the great work is. I do want to find out if it's like a vault tech sort of thing where, or if it's a Noah's Ark sort of thing, or, how it's going to work. But another thing I found really interesting was when they go to Port Borgo and they're like, look, aliens. And my wife and I were talking about this, and it's like, well, they have aliens on their planet. It's like, but do they? Like these, like the Rhodians, and we see what else do we see?
There's a Thorian walking the dog,
right? And
whatever
and
Neil is,
Neil's species has not been revealed yet.
Right.
He is not an Ortolan,
right?
So he is not. He's not like Max Rebo. That is two completely different species.
And at first I was mad about that because one of my few complaints about Disney Star Wars is they have a tendency to shy away from the classic Star Wars creatures, species other than humans, because production designers, I think, like to create their own new makeup or prosthetics, and just saying, give me 20 Rhodians and a couple Mon Cal, especially in the sequel trilogy, they were really they would create all these new species because it looks cool in a concept drawing. When they came out with Neil and the director said that he's not the same species as Max Rebo, I was like, fine. Is this I'm no Star Wars Darwin? Is this like a Vulcans versus Romulans thing where they're maybe a splinter of a species? Is
same
it
system,
adjacent?
Maybe that's what it is. So
yeah,
they come from the same system, but they have different planets.
Maybe they
Star Trek all the time.
Yeah, maybe they've evolved differently. Right. So that, and the more you see Max Rebo in Book of Boba Fett, okay, I get it. The eyes are less expressive than Neil's. He's got that cute little haircut, and I'm sure part of the mystery is going to be, well, why haven't we seen Neil's people before? Maybe this is the Noah's Ark thing where maybe his species was relocated. There's obviously an Thorian, sure. The lady walking the dog. I didn't spot anybody else until we got to the pirate station. The pirates got all kinds of callbacks.
There was an Thorian kid in their class.
Yeah,
because he said something, and then another kid was like, "No, I want to be a data analyst or whatever."
Right.
So it's and in the undersecretary's house, when Fern goes home, you see that mural on the wall. I paused on that 5 times.
I had to get a close up of that. I was when I first saw it, my first, I was like, okay, that's nice. And then the second time through, it was like, what's that?
Right. So we see an Ithorian on there, and we see an older version of Neil's species with tusks.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. So, we don't know. We just don't know about Neil's species.
This is going to be the Baby Yoda thing all over again. Until they give us a name of this beat, we're just the Neils. The adult Neils. The
adult Neils. And so, geez, there's so many questions. But I'm really thinking that they don't consider Neil and the other Ithorians, and there were a lot of Rhodians. I noticed there were a lot of Rhodians in his class. They don't consider them aliens because they've been a part of their culture for potentially centuries. So,
right, and that's why I think it goes back farther than we think.
Yeah,
because this might be a Noah's Ark thing where literally it's just a handful of species, maybe some kind of cataclysm, maybe just whatever. Maybe it is an Atlantis thing where you're just the society decided they wanted to cut themselves off from the galaxy at large and just focus on whatever this great work of theirs is.
Right. whatever it is. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited. One more question, and then we'll start getting into Easter eggs here.
Okay.
So Jod, he kind of used the Force, or did he use the Force to get the keys? Because it looked really janky as the keys were like floating along.
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, if he was able to do that prior, why hadn't he done it before? Unless he was just looking for some rubes to help him get out.
Snips had a great answer because we had that same question, and her answer to that was, and I'm tending to believe this, he probably could have escaped fairly easy, whether he's force sensitive or it was a optical trick. Maybe he's got a magnet. Who knows? It could be anything like that. Yeah, like that guy on Kenobi that was impersonating a Jedi. But I think the reason, it's like DJ in the Last Jedi. He could have got out of the prison cell anytime he wanted. But when the kids show up and they're talking about having a ship, now he's got a way out. If he is the captain that was mutinied and thrown in the cell, sure, I could bust out of the cell, but where am I going to go?
So he's just looking for that.
I need a ride.
He's looking for his moment.
Right.
And they've got a ship. They're allegedly from this mythical treasure planet. And he's just like, yes.
Because if he finds the treasure, maybe he might be thinking, now I can get back in with my crew and reclaim where I belong.
Right. And get his ship back and his crew back from Brutus.
Right.
So it's good.
Isn't that a great? Isn't that guy just from a design standpoint? Isn't that just a great callback? Like I've seen people referencing him to that one guy from the cantina. There's like a wolf. It's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. But
great callback.
Yeah. So that's exactly, and we see a lot of those, and we'll get to that with the Easter eggs. But yeah, that is exactly what he is. But I also like he's got some Blackbeard vibes because he's got all of those pistols on his bandolier, very black.
Again, the pirates theming of this show is fantastic, and whoever designing this guy's costume, I love. There's a mashup between Star Wars and Pirates of the Caribbean that's just working.
100%. Like, I love the captain's cabin. I like the hats, the big hats that were in there. And
even the guy when he was at the beginning, when he's got that, I call it the Cobra Commander shield. Did you notice the top of it looks like one of those triangle hats?
Tricorns, yes.
And it's like a one piece, almost like Zori's helmet from Rise of Skywalker. That very tight face shield. Again, the Cobra Commander thing. But as soon as I saw the top of it, I went, "That's a pirate hat mask."
And then, even at the during the closing credits, the music changes a couple of times. But the last change of the closing credit music, it's very much a pirate shanty sound.
Yes,
they're leaning into the pirate thing, and I absolutely love it. All right, so let's do a few Easter eggs. There were a lot. So a couple that stood out to me. First was SM-33, throwback Smee to Peter Pan, Captain Hook's little first mate. I thought that was awesome. That was a nice throwback.
Very Disney, also very Jude Law-esque because he played Captain Hook in a previous movie.
Yes, he did. I like not an Easter egg necessarily, just an observation. Fern wearing her jacket inside out, so she could be the cool kid with all of her patches on it.
Yeah.
So I love that. And something that Sherry had pointed out to me that I missed the first time. If you go back and look at Neil, you see it a few times, but he has a device on his belt. I didn't see anybody else with a device like that on their belts.
Is he asthmatic? Do you think?
Well, I don't know. That would fit. That would definitely be in line with him, but we haven't seen him use it. But Sherry thought, what if it was a translator? So maybe Neil's not actually speaking basic. We hear him as speaking basic because we speak basic, but maybe that's on his belt. That's a translator.
almost like it's a very common sci-fi trope, the universal translator, where all the aliens speak perfect basic or English for us, so that we don't have to worry. So we don't have to worry about subtitles.
Subtitled all day, yeah. But like in the Mandalorian, Book of Boba. In the Book of Boba Fett, we see the mayor of Mos Espa, the Ithorian. He's got a translator apparatus.
Right.
So he's speaking Ithorian.
And there's a little delay from when the and then the basic kicks in once it's like the Alexa, here's what I'm saying.
So I'm wondering, like, is that on Neil's belt? Is that a translator? I don't know.
But for a multi-species society, that tracks, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is a translator.
So I'm looking forward, or you know what? I also wouldn't be surprised if the writers and the showrunners put things in there like that just to get us talking. Like, to them, it's nothing. It's just a
clip-on, yeah.
It's just, you know what? They went out, they got a shaver, they put some greeblies on it, stuck it to Neil's belt. It has no use, but we're going to obsess over it. As Star Wars fans, we're going to obsess about this tiny little greebly on his belt. What is it? Does he have galactic asthma? Is it a universal translator? What's on Neil's belt? We must know. So, I don't know. A couple other things that were, again, this is probably nothing. It's just my weird brain. So when they're inside the ship and KB hits that power unit to try to get the ship started again, she hits it in a way that was very similar to the way that Han hits the back panel on the Falcon. So she hit it.
The Fonzie punch.
Yes, she hits it. It starts up. It dies down. She hits it again, and then it goes. Just like when Han hits the Falcon. Well, yeah, the Fonzie punch. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Oh yeah, and a very, again, it's easy as an '80s kid. She gives off that the tech kid. Vibe. There's always 100%. There's the archetypes. So we got the cool girl who comes from the higher class family. Like she's kind of hiding her status in this society by playing the bad girl persona when she's out and about. Hangs out with kids who race bikes and all this jazz. And
the kid that she was racing bikes with, the name sounded familiar to me. Let me see if I can find it. I thought I had read. Yeah. So the bully's name is Bonj Falfa, right? And it's named after Bob Falfa. It's Harrison Ford's character in American Graffiti.
Oh, that's classic. I love it.
So that's one of those things. I was like, why does that sound familiar?
Another movie where, again, I know of it. I've watched it, but I mean, it's not one of those things it's not one of those movies where even people our age don't religiously, let's go watch American Graffiti out of the blue. Like, you got to be in the mood for it. And there's so many great callbacks and characters from classic pirate, hot rod, teenage, even there were teenage adventure movies before the 1980s, but I mean,
way before.
And to bring back some of that, like, it's like it's updating. It's taking the themes of those movies and translating it into a new genre like Star Wars to tell the same story.
Of course. So,
but your kids in their first exploring, their first touch of the wider world.
Yeah. And so another one, I know that this one probably jumped out at you, but the Hollow Circus.
Oh my God. Yes.
Right.
And I love how modern Star Wars writers, again, people who grow, a lot of the people who got to realize the people who work on Star Wars now grew up on Star Wars. Like we've been saying, there's so they're going to take even something like the holiday special that George, I'm sure, cringes every time he brings it up to him.
But
it's still part of the canon. But because we loved, we saw it as kids, and you pull from it. I just saw a promo, an old YouTube video for the old Droids cartoon. I can't get that Trouble Again. Those song, as goofy as it is, out of my head.
Yeah, because
to bring in and to bring in something like that circus, a holographic circus thing, from a throwaway holiday special that is a fan favorite, if not a favorite of the creator. It's not like something they act. Oh, let's put out the Star Wars holiday special on Blu-ray every year. But the fans remember it. The fans can call back to it, and now that the fans are grown up and working in Star Wars, they're bringing some of their childhood memories.
They're grabbing from it. They're grabbing from all of it. The Ferryman. He was from the Ewoks. Battle of Endor. He was from he's
Teak.
Yeah. So again, that's not an alien that we've seen since the Ewoks movies. As far as I can remember, I don't remember seeing.
No, I think again it was. Sorry, it was one of those things that they can, fans remember it from their childhood, and I even heard Phil Tippett. They brought him out of retirement just to do the puppeteering because that was an actual puppet.
Yeah,
and I'll admit it was kind of like the train conductor on Book of Boba Fett, where they made a real big deal about it being a practical effect, and it kind of looked like a practical effect, but it was okay.
Yeah, sure,
you could have done it in CG; it would have looked more live-like, and it would have. But it's okay to do again. It's like the circus performer. It's like it's okay to do a little callback to our childhood once in a while because guess what? Star Wars is for kids.
Star Wars is for kids. And I really do honestly think that this show belongs to the kids. We love it. I love it. You love it. We enjoy it because it is that old friend, but it belongs to the kids. I'm not saying that it was specifically made just for children. Clearly it wasn't. Otherwise it wouldn't have all these Easter eggs.
Right.
All these nods. The writers threw things in for us to enjoy with this, alongside this next generation. So we can enjoy it together. And that's why this isn't, for me anyway, one of my favorite Star Wars properties, and we're 2 episodes in.
Right. And there's so much
in the generation.
Yeah, and there's so much, I would say, room to explore this part of it's not tied into the Skywalker saga. We're not going to see a baby Rey walking around. Again, fans like this. We like them said. Who can make a cameo? I hope there aren't any real cameo. I have a couple in my mind that could show up, and I'm like, it would work, and I could see where it could sort of tie in the whole Mandoverse time era together.
So Vane shows up.
Yeah.
So we see him, and I honestly, I'm fine with that because that's a good tie into the Mandoverse.
Yeah, because he was such a throwaway character on Mandoverse. In the pirate storyline.
Yeah.
That I kind of like the fact that we're going to see maybe more of where he belongs. This is his part of the galaxy. He likes to slither around it. Every once in a while, you need a nice little sleazy little bad guy in a story.
You do. And he's almost likable. Almost. He's not as likable as Hondo. I kind of want Hondo to show up.
I'm with you. I'm kind of again. There's ones I could fit him in. I could, I saw those X-wings in one of the trailers, and I'm like, oh, are we gonna get a Paul Carson sighting? Are we?
Probably. So, what are some? There's more. There's so many more. We could do a whole show just on Easter eggs.
Right.
What are some that jumped out to you that you saw?
There was one I didn't catch it right away because it was so faint. And, I'm in a big room watching it on TV. When I put the headphones on, I kind of listen. In the prison cells, when the kids first show up, you hear this whistling. Oh,
like in Pirates of the Caribbean.
And I watched another video talk about. They were saying you could hear it up close. They zeroed in on it. It's the whistling from the Pirates of the Caribbean run. Yeah. There's all sorts of little things like that where callbacks to a non-Star Wars attraction, but it's part of the family. It's Disney. And I love that we're starting. This show can mesh those two things together, and it's not weird.
And it's not overt. It's not in your face. It's so subtle. And I missed it the first time. I missed the whistling the first time, but when I went back and I watched, I heard it again. When the ship starts up for the first time, you hear the old school dial-up modem sound as the ship is booting up. You hear that old like AOL dial-up, modem internet sound effect. It was so cool.
So, somebody else picked up Darth Vader's targeting computer from the TIE Fighter chase.
Oh, was that in there? Was that on one of the?
It was on. Well, the sound was there, and it was like, maybe not the obviously not the screen, but the Star Wars fans are getting they're getting too good for their own good at picking out little Easter egg details. I'm sure the sound mixer guys are. This is all I got to work with. Matt Wood's only got so many toys. Come on.
But I mean, it's like they have to appreciate it when we find these things because like you said, Matt Wood is also a huge Star Wars fan. So I mean, wasn't he the voice of Grievous?
Yeah, Grievous. Yeah,
he had a bunch of voices,
right?
But,
and the battle droids.
And he's like the lead sound designer, right, or something like that. I mean, So I feel like they do put stuff like that in there on purpose for us to find, and when we do find them, that's got to be fun for them,
Oh yeah, and little things like Millennium Falcon alone. Even watching Solo, there were so many, and it was obviously the same ship, but there's just certain sounds that are synonymous with the Falcon and Star Wars tech. I could try to imitate it, but it would sound terrible. But there's just like the engine failing. Yeah, you're like, there's certain sounds that because when you hear them on other shows, I love Toy Story 2. I think when Buzz Lightyear's they're watching the video game, and he waves his hand through the hologram of the battery, and it makes a lightsaber whoosh. And I'm just like, you Ben Burt, aren't you just a crazy?
And they do it because that's how they celebrate their love of the fandom, and it's so cool. So what are some other Easter eggs that jumped out at you that you noticed?
Mostly most of the ones I picked up on was the pirates theming. I think in that initial attack, one of the guy I mean, they didn't even bother with like the stereotypical blaster sound. It sounded like a flint hand pistol. And things like that. Or during the attack, the repellers, I didn't get a good look at them, but the spacesuits they were wearing, I swear, look like the ones that you see Obi-Wan and Ezra Bridger wearing. The very generic open space dome helmet kind of. And I want to watch it again just to kind of slow-mo that a little bit and be like, did they really make a live-action spacesuit? Like, that'd be good. I love that we're starting to get between the animated world and the real world stuff, a sharing of designs and concept.
Filoni and Favreau are both involved in this, so of course Dave is going to pull stuff from the Clone Wars, and he can't not bring stuff over from the Clone Wars. Like, we're gonna get it. Like, I would not be surprised if we saw. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Rex kicking around, but he's probably dead at this point. But there'll be something else. There'll be some other Clone Wars references in there.
Right.
We've got to keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, and it was like, again, for me, this first couple episodes, I wanted to get a feel for the aesthetic of this, at Anna Planet and the pirates. I love. We've done Space Mos Eisley Cantina, where it was like, I liked how there was the kids were running around, and I like the two girls show up with the one place that looked obviously like a nightclub, shall we say, for adults.
Yes,
and I like how the girls immediately had the okay, well, let's not go in there. Like, that's again, for kids who've never seen the big wide world. The Spidey sense went off and went, that's not safe. And also, when all the boys are playing with the pirate doodads and hats in the ship, I got a gun because we're going to a strange town.
Well, and also there was oh, I cannot remember her name, but the lady with the six breasts that was dancing in Jabba's palace. She was
Right.
outside of this this adult establishment.
Oh no, I didn't. I missed that one. I have to watch that again.
Yeah, she was. So there was that other lady that went to, who I think is also the same species as one of the dancers.
One of the dancers, yeah.
Jabba's. But yeah, the lady with the six breasts. I can't remember her name, but I know that Jabba hired her because she reminded him of his mother. I remember that was in a book.
That's her backstory. Yeah.
That's her backstory.
And the pirates, for me, again, I've been waiting for more callbacks to classic Star Wars creatures and characters, like species.
Like, there was a bunch.
And the pirates, the pirates is where it's at, because they can just take, they need such a diverse range of.
Oh yeah, they were grabbing from all
guys. Yeah,
there was another one. One of Gorian Shard's guys, he was there. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of other ones from Jabba's. I thought, I can't remember now. There's another Easter egg that I had in my notes I forgot about. When Wim is talking about Jedi temples that can bury themselves.
The Lothal temple.
We saw that.
Yeah, and another interesting thing, I saw a video of the Arabesh on that little Viewmaster storybook of his. The reason I think this is prequels and not a Clone Wars, style isolation in society, is that if it was a separatist thing or something, they would not have fairy tales painting the Jedi in a good light.
Right. The Jedi would have been bad guys.
Yeah, and the fact that he's playing with an action figures, homemade action figures of a Jedi and a what the Sith are. Well, you're better off than the Jedi Council, apparently.
Right. So also, like, if you're creating this utopian society, why would you allow the knowledge of Jedi and Sith to spark the imagination of your children when you're just like, they're never going to achieve that because you're going to plug them into the accounting department in order to maintain your utopia?
I have a feeling that was not a thing. Well, he said Dad used to read to him, but I have a feeling that was something maybe the mother, who we have not seen or heard of yet, maybe introduced into the kid's life.
We haven't seen Mom, and we also know that we haven't seen Fern's dad. So we don't know. Maybe they're both single parents. Maybe their parents died. Maybe their parents have bigger parts to play, in the great work.
Right.
We don't know yet. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Very excited about that. Very excited for episode 3. So before we wrap up, predictions for episode 3. What have you got?
I'm very interested to hear Jude Law's backstory. He's got to explain to the kids, what was I doing there? Was I a bad pirate? Was I a prisoner of the pirate? How did I get? Eventually, I have a feeling the kids or some, the droid, we're taking this guy on, this very smooth talking guy. What's his excuse going to be for how he got there? Right. And why he needed to get out.
All right. I don't have any predictions right now. I'm just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? I'm really excited. I don't know what we're going to see. And I really, I don't want to deep dive too much into it because I want to really be surprised.
I think it's good, especially early on in the show. Like, they always do a 2-episode premiere to make it like an extended episode. And I like that because this show's got a lot of world building to take care of. This isn't part of the Greater Republic. This isn't that we know. These are kids lost on a ship. Who have no idea what they're getting themselves into. Let that cook. Let that play out.
I agree. So I love it. I'm looking forward to it. It's such a good show. I can't say enough about it. It's just such a good show. I'm so glad they made it.
It feels weird to be happy about Star Wars, right? No.
I mean,
I'm kidding. I've loved most of what's the Mandoverse and everything has been put in the sequel trilogy. I love new Star Wars. I actually love new Star Wars more, I think, than I remember. Because classic Star Wars, OG Star Wars, is always on TV. It's been part of my life for 40 years. This is exciting because this is new. I want to know what these kids are about. I want to know what the pirates are after. I want to, there's so many things I want to know that I don't have already ingrained in my head and self-canon, tell me more. So I'm really looking forward to next week.
And I have to say, I'm already disappointed that it's only 8 episodes. I already want more. I know it's only going to run for 8, and I already want more. And it's just like, oh man, I'm already sad. And we're 2 episodes in, and I'm already sad that it's going to end. I'm that excited about it because it's just such a good show. So some people, it's not going to be for everyone, and it doesn't have to be for everyone.
No, and that's just it. And for those, you're going to give it an honest chance to tell its own story and not affix your own, how do we blame Kathleen Kennedy for all the problems in my life? Just go with it. Enjoy the ride.
Just have fun with it. One thing that I thought, I saw this on TikTok. Someone replied to one of our videos on TikTok, and we're having a conversation about it. And the guy said that he sat down, he watched it with his 10-year-old daughter, and she looked at him and smiled and gave him a thumbs up. And my response to that is the only critique I will accept. That is the only criticism, that is the only review that I'm going to accept about this show. You and I can talk about it and say it's good or bad or whatever all day, but that show doesn't belong to us. The people that show belongs to, whatever they say about it, that's what I'm listening to.
You and I met, towards the end of my career with the Star Wars groups.
Yeah.
But I used to love going out, and I'd be there in my X-wing costume or in my Jedi gear, and kids were coming up to me asking, "Where's Ahsoka? Where's Captain Rex?" This is just after Clone Wars had started, and I was knowledgeable enough about the show because I'm a fan of it, and I've watched it just like these kids do, and I'm totally into what this show's about, that I could play it off, and give them an answer, and I love seeing the younger fans' reaction, to this stuff. What the 40-year-old guys in their basement on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, or YouTube channel of their own making, knock yourself out. In fact, knock yourself out,
please.
But
before I do it for you,
but I can't wait to see the next Halloween or even like a sci-fi convention. People bringing their kids dressed up like these kids. You'll start seeing Neil costume and something they can relate to at their age level.
Yes, young girls are going to be dressing up like Fern and KB.
Right.
It's going to happen. Young people of color are going to be dressing up like Wim. That is a good thing.
That is a good thing for Star Wars. That is a good thing in general. Yeah.
It is a good thing in general because now these children have characters that look like them. They have characters they can relate to. And now, George always said that Star Wars was for kids. George has always said that. He has always been willing to die on that hill. George created Star Wars for children, for that 12 and under set. That's what Star Wars is for, because when he was that age, those were the kinds of serials he was seeing, when he went to the movies. He was looking at Flash Gordon, he was looking at the samurai movies as in that age. And it sparked something in him to create this wonderful, beautiful, amazing galaxy that we all get to play in now. And now I'm getting goosebumps, man. And now kids that were his age then are getting to experience this galaxy far, far away. I'm actually getting choked up. I'm getting goosebumps. I'm about to start crying on my fucking show. All right, so now wrapping it up.
It's a good show. This was fun.
It was great fun. Crash, thank you for joining us. You going to come back on next week? So we're going to come back next week.
Absolutely. I'll see you next week, and I'll be watching it in the show a couple times before we come on. I'm eating this up. I love what's going on right now.
Well, when we're done recording this episode, I'm going to rewatch the last 2 episodes. I'm going to watch episode 1 and 2 again because it is now 2 episodes in, it is. I'm going to say it is my favorite Star Wars property.
I will say, wow, I do like. There's this thing. I'll try to be real quick. When Obi-Wan Kenobi came out, and immediately they started asking you and Inane, and never ask an actor, "Oh, do you want more work?" Yes, they do. They will always say, "I'm always up for season 2 of whatever." If this does end up being a one-off run of 8 episodes, fine. Tell me a good story that can become the timeless classic that we 80s kids think Goonies is in the Star Wars universe, and I will be happy with that small piece of gold.
No, I disagree. No. You
want more?
One more. So I want this to turn into like a Stranger Things scenario where it was only supposed to be a one-off. And people love Stranger Things so much. They've got like 4 seasons now or something like that.
Okay. Just don't go Game of Thrones on me where you keep milking it until you run out of ideas and then you blow up the pot.
I want to see this run so far that I want to watch these kids grow up into adults and have their own children that they send off on adventures into the galaxy. And it's just, I'm done with the Skywalker saga. I'm done with it. I'm done with the Skywalker saga. We've beaten that one to death. We don't need it anymore. Give me more Wim, Fern, KB, and Neil for the rest of my life. I'm good.
Okay.
Because it feels like it. Rebels was my favorite Star Wars property. Like, it was at the top of my list. It was number one.
I like that time era. I like that Dave explored that time era, and that is and the Clone Wars versus Rebels team. I am sort of Team Rebels because I like that it explored its own branch.
Yes, and a lot of people complained about it, and it was kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people. But I loved the art style because it was a throwback to the Ralph McQuarrie concept art.
Oh yeah,
and I love that they did that. So to me, because Ralph came up with so many good designs. We wouldn't have Star Wars without Ralph. I mean,
right.
Not the way that we know it now, obviously, but to see Dave go back into those archives and grab those concepts, like Zeb. Zeb was the concept for Chewbacca,
right?
And then now Zeb is his own character. Dave rescued Zeb from obscurity and gave him to the world. So that was one of the main reasons I love Rebels, and it's just a damn good story. Rebels is just a damn good story.
Oh yeah.
But now, I'm saying it, 2 episodes in, Skelton Crew has just bumped Rebels to the number 2 slot on my top.
All right, that's a gauntlet being laid down, folks. I like this.
That's it. It's a hot take. So now episode 3 is going to come out. And it's going to suck, and I'm going to have to oh, forget it. That's it. I'm going back to the Acolyte. No,
I'm going to see. I'm actually looking forward. I'm going to Steel City Con this weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing Bryce Dallas Howard, and I know she won't say anything because good people don't give away stuff at their panels, but I want to hear what she does say about the show. And if I get a chance, if I get to talk to her, I want to ask her just like, okay, what can you tell me, and how much fun was it to work on?
Right. And so far, it's a hit. So far across the board, it's a hit. There's even the one guy, we don't like to talk about him, but the one guy who makes a lot of Star Wars theories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That guy. Yeah. He likes it. Like I saw a tweet that he made. I haven't delved too much into what he says because I don't really I'll see stuff pop up on my feed. I don't follow him, but he said that he was able to relate to it and it took him back to his childhood. So I don't know. So if that guy is giving it high praise, then
okay.
All right. So all right. So Crash, again, thank you, sir, so much for joining us on our Skelton Crew review. And we'll see you next time. Hey, for the new season of Star Wars Safe Space, you going to join us?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can.
As soon as you're ready to roll, let me know.
All right. So probably in a few weeks, we'll be ready to roll on it. All right. Crash, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us this week. And we will see you next week with more of this. So, and I'm geeking out. All right. Thanks, everybody.